Hello, welcome back to my channel where I'm sharing stories from the imaginary world that I started over 20 years ago when I was 9 years old. My imaginary world is called Chutasia and centres around my stuffed toy hedgehog Chutney, who is the princess of Chutasia. On my channel, I invite you to interpret the world of Chutasia and its stories and quirks to gain personal insight or to reflect on your own personal values. So I'll be doing what I always do, which is I write notes on my phone throughout the week of new discoveries from the world of Chutasia that Chutney tells me telepathically. And then when I sit down to film, I go through my notes and I share them with you. So in Chutasia, there is an underground city. In the underground city, they are obsessed with mustard. Their identity is completely built around mustard, and there is a strong social pressure to like mustard. However, Chutney suspects that a lot of them don't like mustard and they're just pretending in order to fit in. Interesting. Chutney suspects perhaps it's possible that none of them like mustard, but they're just not telling each other that they don't like mustard. Many of their societal events evolve around trying different variations of mustard, and they also have kind of like mustard sommeliers. So a bit like when you do wine tasting and they're like, oh yes, this one has a high acidic profile with notes of citrus. And so they do that for mustard. Each hedgehog is encouraged to find their own personal flavour of mustard that will become their signature mustard. And many are pressured just to sort of pick at random so that people will stop bothering them about picking their favourite mustard. Mustard is used at celebrations, so many will end up associating the flavour of mustard with a happy moment in their life. Then it is hard for them to determine if they actually like the flavour of mustard or they just enjoy the nostalgia that comes with the flavour of mustard. So does this make you think of anything? For me, there's definitely some relationship, I think, well, when I interpret that story, between mustard and alcohol. I think, I don't know, there's a lot of societal pressure to enjoy wine, for example, and I definitely, like, I believe you, you're a sommelier or whatever, you think you can taste all these different flavours and scents in wine, sure, but I can't, and I'm not particularly interested in doing that. I do remember in a job that I had at some point, we did wine tasting. And actually, somebody had said that the goal of the wine tasting was to find, one of the goals of the wine tasting was to find a wine that Sarah enjoyed. And I didn't enjoy any of them, and I wasn't going to enjoy any of them because I don't like wine. And so I feel it's a bit of a mirror with the mustard, you know, with the sort of pressure to pick your favourite mustard. I mean, do you like mustard? I don't like mustard. So, the origin of the Chutasian map. How do the Chutasians know what the shape of their islands are? So, what happened is a hedgehog climbed a tree very high, and he jumped out of the tree. It so happened that when he jumped out of the tree, a bird was flying at the exact point, and the bird flew into him at a perfect angle and catapulted the hedgehog into space. And from space, he could see the outline of the Chutasian islands and also the shape of the planet that Chutasia is on, which is called Hedgehog. Then, when he fell back down to Chutasia, he then drew what he remembered, and that is the Chutasian map that we see. It says this was a freak accident and they've never been able to reproduce this. And the bird that flew into him is actually a bird that is now extinct. It's a bird that was called the bird of spring. Interesting. And this hedgehog, we do not know his name just yet, but he is rumoured to be the first to have recognised the Great Externa. So the Great Externa is sort of lands around Chutasia that are undiscovered. Or, well, there have been various Chutasian adventurers who have gone into the Great Externa, but none of them have come back. You can look at the video about Father Hog if you want to know a bit more about the Great Externa. But there are some witches who went into the Great Externa who were called the Sand Witches. And I've got a note here that says that the Sand Witches sort of hold this hedgehog in high regard because he was sort of the first the first to notice the lands of the great externer. I actually had a note there that apparently the falling out of a tree and being hit by a bird actually came from a dream that I had. And then, of course, I told Chutney about this dream, and she said, "Oh, that's funny that you had a dream about that, because it's actually a story from Chutasia." There is a village in Chutasia where all of the hedgehogs have flat feet, and all of them have to wear inner soles in their shoes. I didn't know hedgehogs wore shoes. That's interesting. Well, I guess they all have to wear shoes, and they all have to wear inner soles, otherwise their hip hurts. So I've just written a note, must be genetic. Yeah, perhaps it's genetic if everybody in the village has it. So what do you think about that? Does it make you think about something? I mean, I personally wear inner soles, so I take quite a literal view on this. Maybe you take another view on it. You know, if you grew up in that village where everybody wore inner soles, all the hedgehogs wore inner soles, maybe you would not even be aware that outside of your village there were hedgehogs who didn't wear inner soles. Perhaps you would just think that it was just a given in life that you had to wear inner soles because you never knew any hedgehog who didn't wear inner soles. Perhaps. I don't know. How do you interpret the story about the village with all the flat feet? All right. So that's that for this video. So if you want more chaos, links below. See you all next time. Bye bye.